The Interstellar Military Academy's xenobiology assessment was legendary for separating competent cadets from exceptional ones. Every year, instructors brought live specimens into the classroom to test the students' ability to read behavioral cues, assess threat levels, and demonstrate proper handling protocols. This year's assessment, however, would become part of Academy folklore for entirely different reasons. Cadet James Morrison sat in the third row of the amphitheater-style classroom, reviewing his notes on predator species classification. Around him, cadets from 47 different species fidgeted nervously, their various appendages twitching, scales shifting colors, or bioluminescent patches flickering with anxiety. Everyone knew what was coming. Instructor Talven, a towering Dracorian with silver scales and 3 sets of eyes, entered through the main door. Behind him, 2 assistants guided a reinforced transport cage on an anti-gravity platform. The cage's opaque panels prevented anyone from seeing its contents, but the deep, rumbling growls emanating from within made several herbivorous cadets instinctively shift toward the exits. "Attention," Talven's voice boomed across the hall. "Today's assessment involves Vrexian shadow stalkers. Juveniles, approximately 6 months old. For those unfamiliar, Vrexians are apex predators from a death world with 1.4 standard gravity. They possess enhanced sensory organs, retractable claws capable of piercing standard armor, and pack-hunting intelligence." A Centaurian cadet raised a trembling manipulator appendage. "Sir, how dangerous are juveniles?" "A juvenile Vrexian could kill most species in this room within seconds," Talven replied matter-of-factly. "However, these specimens have been socialized since birth. Your task is simple: demonstrate proper approach protocols, read their body language, and, if possible, achieve non-threatening contact. You will be evaluated on technique, confidence, and threat assessment accuracy." The cage opened. 3 creatures emerged, each roughly the size of an earth wolf cub but built far more powerfully. Their fur was midnight black with bioluminescent stripes that pulsed in shifting patterns. 6 eyes, 2 forward-facing, 4 peripheral, scanned the room with predatory intelligence. Their movements were liquid grace, muscles coiling and releasing beneath sleek pelts. Retractable claws clicked softly against the floor as they padded into the open space. The classroom went absolutely silent. The cubs separated, each investigating different sections of the room. The first approached a group of Polarian cadets, peaceful traders known for their diplomatic skills. The Polarians froze, their neck frills flaring in involuntary fear responses. The cubs sniffed once, seemed to find them uninteresting, and moved on. The second cub investigated a Throsian warrior caste cadet, whose species prided themselves on fearlessness in combat. The Throsian held perfectly still, mandibles locked, attempting to project calm authority. The cub circled him once, twice, then dismissed him with what could only be described as predatory disinterest. The third cub, slightly larger than its siblings, prowled down the center aisle. Its eyes swept across the assembled students, scanning, evaluating, searching for something. Then it stopped. James felt the weight of 6 eyes focusing directly on him. The cub's bioluminescent stripes shifted to a warmer amber pattern. Its ears, 4 of them, James noted clinically, rotated forward with clear interest. The creature began moving toward him. James's training kicked in. He remained still but not rigid, kept his breathing even, and avoided direct eye contact while maintaining peripheral awareness. The cub approached with deliberate steps, its gait shifting from hunting prowl to something more curious, more exploratory. "Cadet Morrison," Talven's voice carried warning. "Remember your protocols." But the cub had already made its decision. It reached James's position and, without hesitation, sat down directly beside his chair. Not in front of him in a confrontational posture. Not behind him as a stalking predator might. Beside him, close enough that James could feel the heat radiating from its body. Then it leaned against his leg. The entire classroom erupted in whispered confusion. Instructor Talven's scales shifted to a pale blue, the Dracorian equivalent of shocked surprise. "Impossible," breathed the assistant instructor, a Volarian with compound eyes. Vrexians don't display pack bonding behavior with non-pack members. Especially not with unknown species. But the cub had clearly missed that particular memo. It pressed more firmly against James's leg, its bioluminescent stripes pulsing in a slow, rhythmic pattern that the xenobiology database identified as contentment. A low sound emerged from its chest, not a growl, but something closer to a rumbling purr. The other two cubs noticed. They abandoned their investigation of the other cadets and bounded over, flanking James on both sides. Within seconds, all three predators had arranged themselves around the human cadet like an honor guard, their body language radiating protective territoriality. One cub rested its head on James's boot. Another stretched out beside his chair, close enough to touch. The third sat upright, alert, its eyes scanning the room as if guarding against threats to its newly adopted pack member. James, remembering his training, slowly extended one hand. The nearest cub immediately nuzzled into it, pressing its head against his palm. The texture of its fur was surprisingly soft, despite the deadly creature it would eventually become. He could feel the powerful muscles beneath, the coiled strength that could tear through armor, now completely relaxed in his presence. Cadet Morrison, Talven approached carefully, his professional composure struggling against obvious bewilderment. "What, exactly, did you do?" "Nothing, sir," James replied honestly. "I just sat here." "That's not an explanation." "Sir, with respect, I don't have one. They just chose me." The Dracorian instructor pulled out his datapad, scanning the cub's biometrics. His scales shifted through several colors: confusion, fascination, resignation. Their stress hormones are non-existent. Dopamine and oxytocin levels are elevated. According to these readings, they're experiencing what humans would call bonding. "But why the human?" asked the Volarian assistant. "Humans aren't particularly imposing physically. Their homeworld is barely a Class 7 death world. They lack natural weapons, armor, enhanced senses." "Maybe that's exactly why," another cadet suggested. "A Corthian, whose species specialized in behavioral psychology. Humans are persistence predators, yes, but also cooperative pack animals. Perhaps the cubs recognize similar social patterns." Talven made a notation on his datapad. "This will require significant research. Cadet Morrison, you've just become the first documented case of spontaneous Vrexian pack bonding with a human. Congratulations. You've also created a diplomatic incident, since these cubs are property of the Vrexian Confederation and may now refuse to leave your side." As if to confirm this assessment, all three cubs pressed closer to James, their bioluminescent stripes pulsing in synchronized contentment. James looked down at the deadly predators treating him like their favorite person in the universe and did the most human thing possible: he gently scratched behind the nearest one's ears. The purring intensified. From the back of the classroom, a human instructor, one of only 3 in the academy, chuckled softly. "Gentle beings," she said to her alien colleagues, "welcome to humanity's most inexplicable survival trait: everything, and I mean everything, eventually becomes a pet." The cubs dozed off against James's legs, 3 apex predators content in the presence of a species that had somehow evolved to befriend absolutely anything with a heartbeat. The assessment was postponed indefinitely.